Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's BJ's Career Month session. We're just going to wait a few more minutes to allow everyone to come in, and then we will start officially. Okay. Okay. All right. Let's begin. So, good afternoon, everybody, or good morning, depending on where you're calling from. My name is Ben Maheson, and I'm the BJ Membership and Account Manager here at the Business Graduates Association, or BGA, as we'll be calling it today. So yeah, thank you so much for attending our first workshop as part of our 4-part series called the BJ Careers Month of this year. Today's session, being the first session, we will be talking about the importance of lifelong learning in your career progression. I'm joined today by one of our partner companies called Ryan from ABintegra. So Ryan Cattell, thank you for joining. What we will do today is I will first of all be talking about 20 minutes about lifelong learning and the importance of lifelong learning. And then what Ryan will be doing is touching upon what I was talking about and how it can apply and how you can use it through the Career Development Centre. And for those of you who are unsure what the Career Development Centre is, it is our career platform that we have for our website and is available to every single BJ member. Hopefully all of you in this call already BJ members, and you could have this free of charge for the duration of your career. Okay, so this agenda I have here is mainly for my part, and this will be 20-minute presentation, like I was saying. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk using some research that we've conducted that's applicable to lifelong learning. Followed by that, I'm going to talk a little bit about the workforce 4.0 and the future of the workplace. And I'll be touching a little bit upon the skills needed. After that, I'm going to be then talking about the importance of lifelong learning and what you can do as an individual and as a group in order to become a better lifelong learner. Okay, so this first slide is a really nice slide I'd like to use to show people, okay, this is what everyone expects that you will be getting from an MBA or any business related degree. As you can see here, these are the tick boxes or the general competencies that you would expect from an MBA or most graduates in general. And that's, leadership, teamwork, adaptability, global orientation. But what we did also find as well is that these are great core competencies, but what else is there that people want to learn and what else do employers want? And that's what I'll be touching upon briefly now. Okay, so we conducted some research about a year or two ago on areas of interest for lifelong learning. So we understand that everyone coming out of an MBA or a business-related degree will have a lot of business-related skills. But then when we asked these graduates, we said, okay, you graduated from MBA, have you accessed any lifelong learning opportunities through the business school from which you graduated? And the majority, as you can see from the top left diagram, 58.23% said no, with about 35% saying yes and some saying, I don't know. And for all these graduates that did actually answer, we are kind of said to them, okay, if your school that you graduated from, looking back retrospectively, could offer you some lifelong learning materials, what is the topic you'd be most interested in? And bear in mind, these are people already working, so they're looking for something specific. And most of them said data analytics, digital strategy, global strategy, innovation, and all these other topics, which you kind of do get by doing your degree, but it's always something else that you want on top of that. And when we spoke with these students, they said, okay, or graduates, sorry, all right, I would like to study this. All right, how would you like to study it? And a lot of them said, master classes, short certificates, executive education programs, alumni weekend reunions, and any online modules that I can access after graduating that are relevant to topics that I'm interested in. And the reason why I was talking about on those previous slides is that when you leave university, you're trying to constantly grow and adapt and add more skills to yourselves. And the reason why it's always important to continuously learn, which is what lifelong learning essentially means, is that the industry we're constantly working in is always changing. And we've seen this from after COVID. We've seen a huge accelerated growth in certain industries. And I put them on the bottom left here. So as we're all aware, because I'm pretty sure everyone on here has an Amazon account, is that we've all seen how strong and fast Amazon and e-commerce has grown over the past 2 years. And some say it's almost like a 10-year growth in 2 years. And, and there's also a record number of people that have been quitting their jobs in the Great Resignation, and loads of people who usually in crises tend to look to do other careers have decided to follow companies such as Coursera, which is a online company that gives courses all around the world. And there was 9 million people signed up to Coursera in April 2020. So as you can see, and kind of I talked about on top of the screen here, is that the industry that we're working in or will be working is constantly changing, and you always need to be learning more and spreading your horizons in order to stay relevant. So now I'm going to talk about a little bit more about this kind of skills needed for the future of work. So I was saying, like, the industry is constantly changing. It's hard to say what it's going to look like. But what is very clear is that everyone will need to be updating their skills or their skill set pretty regularly throughout their career. And the World Economic Forum predicts by 2025, and we are getting there, as you can see, is that the share of core skills that will change in the next 5 years is 40%. So 40% of current workers will be expected to change their skills in the coming years. And so what you must be thinking of is, okay, how can I add my skill set and how can I become more relevant in the future? And that's what we'll be talking about today. And even the employers are starting to notice that, okay, we see that everyone has really good hard skills. So that's what those MBA core competencies I was talking about. So you've got a first class honors in your degree, you've got really good results in your exams, you've got really good hard skills relevant to the job that they're employing for. However, soft skills are as important, if not more important, than hard skills. So as you can see, 94% of jobs rate social skills as essential to success. And that's what Forbes said in 2020. And also 67% of HR managers said they'd hire a candidate with strong soft skills, even if his or her technical abilities were lacking, which is something I find really important, is that, you might not have, for example, the best coding skills, but if you show the intuition to be able to learn very fast, you can learn on a job and be a very, very good employee. And all the skills the employees are looking for is, like we were saying before, is 80% agree that interpersonal skills are the most important skills that a person can have. And then after that, you start to get more like, the versatile skill sets, the ability to navigate technological disruption, innovative thinking. And that kind of comes into like the second category of learning, motivation, and leadership, and then managing decision-making processes. So as you can see from this slide, that it's, employers aren't looking for, okay, who has the best data analytical skills, for example, or who's the best at speaking with clients. It's all about interpersonal skills and being really good with your team and the clients. Okay, so the last bit I'm going to talk about now is the soft skills versus hard skills. And for those of you who don't know, is that the hard skills is, specific competencies. So that's like really being good at interpreting data or Microsoft Office skills. And then the soft skills are all the other aspects. So, communication skills, timekeeping, critical thinking. And this is everything outside of what your job description will usually say. And what a lot of people tell you is that they are very important and they are essential to everyone, and they are also intertwined. So soft skills are hard to teach. It's like teaching someone to be, really good with a big group of people. It's hard to teach, but it's something you learn from. And this is what kind of I'll be talking about now, is that lifelong learning can help you with these soft skills and these hard skills in one. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the importance of lifelong learning. So, lifelong learning being each of us here will always be learning throughout their lives, maybe, doing extracurricular activities or studying other master's exams, or, doing other qualifications. You're always going to be learning. And by doing these extra lifelong learning activities, they can contribute to some really interesting aspects in your life, not just your career. For example, research suggests that people who practice continuous or lifelong learning are happier on average, because it helps people to keep developing their passions and interests, which brings us happiness. So if you're doing a job that it's maybe not the most, most crucial thing you've ever wanted to do, or which makes you most happy, by learning things outside it, that helps you build your happiness and makes you become more of a well-rounded individual. And by doing extra lifelong learning, or always trying to learn, essentially, can also help with longevity. So lifelong learning might be able to slow the onset of Alzheimer's. And another study found that spending time learning to play a new musical instrument can help delay cognitive decline. And then a third study, which might not be relevant to you in this webinar, but a third study found that spending time learning new skills, namely digital photography and quilting, helped elderly people to improve their memories. So as you can see, lifelong learning is important to more than just your career. Two more aspects that lifelong learning can help as well is capacity. So people that are continuously learning helps them to upskill, and it's important for adaptability. So the little diagram on the left there is kind of showing the kind of cup analogy, that people who are constantly trying to learn not just one thing specific to their job, but loads of other stuff, makes them a more well-rounded individual. And research has shown for companies that have a strong learning culture are 52% more productive. Because if you're constantly trying to learn not just something specific to your job, but outside of your job, it's going to make you way more innovative and be able to think outside the box. And that's where lifelong learning drives innovation. Because what it does is it helps you build critical thinking and helps you look at a problem from a new angle, which is what is very important for innovation and will benefit you massively in the long run. Okay, so talk about life-wide learning. So lifelong and life-wide learning are very interchangeable, kind of like sayings. So what I try to say is that with lifelong is that you're constantly learning to, for the whole of your life, which is kind of lifelong learning. Then life-wide learning is learning through other areas of your life, are helpful for then your career. So for example, if you learn a musical instrument, it teaches you a lot of skills that you don't think are relevant to your career, but they will be. So for anyone here who's learned an instrument or has learned an instrument in the past, it's hard, it takes a lot of time, but it's very rewarding. And, even by talking about this in an interview, is it shows the interviewer, that you are hardworking and have discipline, because you stuck at an instrument you've learned, might have spent every day learning to play the piano or guitar or drums, and it shows hard work and discipline. As well as this, it also shows organization and time management, because you're every day you're trying to put time aside to learn, and you're also, with time management, you're keeping time with music and you're actually positioning your time efficiently. As well, it can also show teamwork. So by working, or being in a band, you're working in harmony or synchronizing with other people, which shows really efficient teamwork. And also you've got creative problem solving skills. As you imagine, instruments are not easy to play, but by mastering them, you've come over a lot of problems. And it also shows you can work under pressure. So as you can see, musical instruments are really, by learning musical instruments, it is really useful for life-wide learning. But it's not just about learning an instrument or learning to code on your own. It's also through sport. So for anyone who's done sport in any capacity, be it, football or surfing or anything, or golf, is that it helps you build resilience, teamwork, perseverance, and working under pressure. And these are skills that you think are, they are very relevant to sports, but are they actually relevant to your career? And what I always say is that it really is, because, if you've ever done a marathon, for example, or a half marathon, a 10K, 5K, or you've tried to do something that is way out your comfort zone and is an achievement to you, is it helps teach yourself that, okay, I thought I would never be able to do a marathon in my life, but I've done it. And it kind of puts everything in perspective, that if I can run a marathon, I can definitely sit this exam, or I can definitely speak to my CEO face to face without being nervous. And it kind of gives you more perspective that, everything is a bit more well-rounded. And that is why lifelong learning and doing all these extra, activities or learning categories is really useful for your personal growth, your job security, your confidence, and helps keep your competitive edge. Because if for example, you've ran a marathon, that's made you a stronger person in yourself, physically and mentally, and increases your confidence, because if I run a marathon, I can talk in this meeting in front of 10 people. And then that will afterwards give you a competitive edge, because you've got more confidence, you can speak to people, so you've got better soft skills. And it also helps your job security, because you are someone who's constantly learning and constantly adapting. Okay, so the steps you can take to become a better lifelong learner is what I put in this slide here. So it's all about pushing yourself out the comfort zone, which is a diagram on the right. So the comfort zone, we all know, is where, you're sitting at home, just, chilling, watching stuff. But by pushing you into the fear zone, the learning zone, the growth zone, such as running a marathon or learning a new instrument, it's a really good opportunity to grow. And one of my advice is to always seek opportunities to grow. Maybe it's sports, music, learning to do some data analysis, speaking to people over LinkedIn that you wouldn't normally do, attending networking events, talking to people outside your network is a really good example of pushing yourself out your comfort zone. And we all know, by pushing yourself out your network and network over people, there's always a stream of opportunities that come your way from doing stuff you didn't really think you should have done in the at the start. So leaving your comfort zone is a really, really good piece of advice. As well as that is always to look after yourself. So a healthy body is a healthy mind. And that was what I was kind of talking a bit with the the marathon. Like, it's not, obviously running a marathon is a long, it's a very long period of time. I would never run a marathon personally, but always having a healthy body and a healthy mind really helps you in your whole life. If you do regular exercise, say 3 or 4 times a week, you're going to be happier at home, happier at work, and you'll be a better learner and a better, well-rounded individual. As well as that, I always say, to take courses on topics that interest you, regardless if it's relevant to your career ambitions. And this is what Ryan will be talking about in a second, is that in the Career Development Centre, we have a wealth of resources and modules on pretty much most things I could possibly think of off the top of my head to help you become a better lifelong learner. Okay, so just to summarize my PowerPoints is, okay, we've talked about the future of the workplace and the skills needed to stay relevant. We've also talked about the importance of lifelong learning and why it's relevant to the future, and also how to become a better lifelong learner. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pass over to Ryan Cattell from AMBA. He's going to show you the Career Development Centre and what you can do to become a better lifelong learner. And for anyone who doesn't know what the Career Development Centre is, or is not actually a BJ member, to access the Career Development Centre, please go to our website, so businessgraduateassociation.com, and register at the login register page. And from there, if you click the Career Development Center, you'll be taken through to the AMBA Integro platform and be able to view all the things that Ryan's going to talk about. Okay, so now I'm going to pass over to Ryan. I'll stop sharing now.
Perfect. Thanks, Ben. Much appreciated. Hi, everybody. I'll introduce myself and AMBA Integro and the Career Development Center quickly before I jump in and start looking at some content. So AMBA Integro is a company. As Ben's already said, we provide the Career Development Center, which is hopefully showing on screen now. Ben, stop me anytime if I'm not showing the CDC. AMBA Integro, the company name, is a loose Latin translation for renew or refresh yourself personally, which fits really nicely into everything Ben's just described in line with lifelong and life-wide learning. And we live that mantra every day. So we build the technology. We also supply all of the tools and content that sit within the CDC that I'm going to talk you through now. And we see the CDC as a tool that should support somebody on their entire career journey. So from the day you first really enter higher or further education all the way through to retirement. What that means is the CDC can, yes, help find a job, which is where the title Career Development Center comes from. And that is a foundation of the CDC, which I'll touch on really briefly in a second, how we do that. But we want it to extend much further than that. And that's what I'm hoping to bring to life for you all today as BGA members who have access to the CDC here. So we want this to be one of the key lifelong learning tools that you guys use and you have access to as a benefit of your membership. We put content in here every single month. So there's a range of places our content comes from, primarily an internal content team, which is made up of specialists in a number of areas who build that into e-learning, written or video content. We also work with a huge network of employers, so a network of employers spanning all sorts of industries, so we can get the true message ourselves of what they're looking for and what the skills are that they're looking for from their workforce, both now and in the future, and make sure that the CDC reflects that with learning content. And then we also work with professional coaches, who I'll come to at the end. And that's where we really embrace what Ben was describing in terms of life-wide learning. So we don't just work with coaches from the corporate space. We absolutely work with some, but we also have coaches who come out of things like sporting, a sporting background or a mental health background. And we take their advice and put it right there alongside our professional coaches to give that real breadth of information as well as the depth that the CDC offers. So I'm not going to work through every single section. You'll notice there's a lot of buttons in here, and that's because there's a lot of content and tools. Over 1,000 pieces of content in total if you were to accumulate everything within the CDC, but I want to show some of the key areas. And I will start at the beginning, which is the job searching area, which I just want to touch on quickly so as to show you what we mean by helping find a job before moving into our soft and hard skill development. So there are tools which help you build a CV if you haven't got one or you're looking to refresh one. Maybe you've been in employment for a couple of years and you're looking to refresh it. And the system then scans that CV and tells you where you can improve it, particularly in line with the role you're looking for. It will tell you exactly what an applicant tracking system would tell a hiring manager about your CV, and it will give you an idea of the skills that your CV is highlighting. So looking in here, you want to make sure that all of the soft skills and hard skills that you want to make clear to an employer when submitting a CV are those that are most prominent in your CV. But what I want to talk about here is what more it does than that. So really a sensible starting point if you've never used the CDC before and you're not sure where to go, you're not sure which skills it is you want to develop. We have assessments to help you better understand yourself, your strengths and your development areas before you push into the learning content. So I've got a bunch of them on screen here, and you can see some are very specific, some are quite broad. The two I wanted to highlight were the temperament assessment and the strengths assessment. So the temperament assessment is looking at you yourself. So you as an individual, who are you? What gets you out of bed in the morning? What is it that motivates you? Or equally important, what demotivates you? What are you not going to enjoy in life? What's going to sap energy from you? And applying that to a career, so to a career decision. So we've just got an example report on screen here, having taken the temperament assessment, which only takes 10-15 minutes to complete. And it will not only tell you about yourself, it will tell you about the sort of industries and roles that might suit you based on what the assessment has learned about you and what the assessment is telling you about yourself. It uses a light version of the INTJ MBTI assessment. And then the strengths assessment, which is the second I highlighted there, is looking at where you're confident and where you're not, giving you a guide. So this is your steering wheel through not just the CDC, but your own personal development journey, even outside of the CDC. So it will take you through 50 of the most common and most in-demand workplace skills right now, particularly focusing on those soft skills that Ben was describing before, because of the importance that employers place on them these days. And it asks you to categorize that in 3 different ways. So this is all self-analysis. So take teamworking. Teamworking is my first skill it's asking me to consider. Gives me a little overview of that, although I'm sure everyone on the webinar today is familiar with teamworking. First question it's asking me is whether or not this is important or not in the career I'm in, or the career I have a desire to move into. The second thing it then asks me to consider around teamworking is whether or not I enjoy that. So you're dragging and dropping. Let's imagine it's important. I'm going to say this is something I enjoy. Then the third question it's asking me to answer for myself in regard to teamworking is how confident I am in it, how good I am at it. So highly proficient, competent, or needs development. So if in this example, I would put teamworking as an important skill that I enjoy, something I'm highly proficient at, what the system's going to tell me at the end, and I'm not going to go through all 50 skills here, is it's going to tell me that this is a strength. This is something to focus on. There is always credit in improving this and working on this, because exactly as Ben said, the workplace moves, these skills move, and you need to stay competitive. But it would say the system would tell me that teamworking is something I want to talk about. I want to be loud and proud on my CV, in my interview, in my networking opportunities. And I want to make sure it's something I'm incorporating within my career. If we were to move on, I've then got problem solving as my next skill. If we imagine that this one is something also important, something I enjoy, but let's say it needs development, the system's going to point me towards some development resources on that. It's going to say, well, this is important. It's something you enjoy. You want to utilize this in your career, but you need to become more proficient at it. And it's going to guide me to learning resources to improve my problem solving, etc. Like I said, I won't go through all of these, but it would go through 50 of those and give me a report at the end. So that would be my suggestion for starting in the CDC. If you're not too sure where to go next and you're not too sure what it is you want to develop, it's going to give you a really good picture of yourself as a person and your skill set, and where that can improve and where you can leverage that in your career journey. What we then have is learning content. And this is really where we start to get into the heart of the platform and what we're all here to talk about. So firstly, we have over 100 videos in here in total. And these videos come from employers. So you can see there's a section up here all around employer advice. And it comes from our career coaches. So we have career coaches. All of our videos are maximum 10 minutes long, more like 5 to 7 minutes, because we want this to be bite-sized learning. We want this to be easily consumable for you. We don't want you to have to set aside 3 hours to take on a little bit of information here. And we're also, and you'll see this as I go through the presentation here, we're very specific on what these videos cover. We wouldn't just have one video which covers career development as a whole, for example. As you can see, we've got 53 videos covering career development. And that's because we break it down very granular to a very granular level, so that you can take on the information that's most relevant to you. We call it a just-in-time learning approach, as opposed to asking you to sit through an entire course to get the 5 minutes that's relevant to you. And then outside of videos, we have a huge range of e-learning and written content. So this all sits within our learning section here now. And this is where I'm going to focus now for the rest of the presentation, just to give you a feel for everything this covers, because this is where we have hundreds and hundreds of resources, and it can be easy to get lost in here, and it can be easy to not fully appreciate the breadth of content outside of where I started, which was CVs, interviews, and job search, which the CDC is there for, but that's only a small portion of what it covers. So firstly, you can see in here, before I start jumping into specific topics, you'll see the new content. And our content team really are driven by current trends in the workplace. So right now, there's a huge focus on mental health, not only managing your own mental health in the workplace, as important as that is, but it's understanding neurodiversity in the workplace and understanding the benefits that can bring, something that's not always been appreciated, something that is absolutely true. So you'll see we've got a lot of content in here around neurodiversity right now, which has just been added in the last month, which helps both you as a neurodiverse employee, but also as a manager or a team member of somebody who's neurodiverse, helping you to better understand them, work with them better and utilize them better if they are a team member. Moving on, we firstly got some content which is about helping you make the right decisions at the start of your career. So career decision-making content, and you can see here we cover a whole range of topics, and each of these tiles represents a resource, whether it be an e-learning course or a written article. We've also got moving into self-employment. So not just focused on a classical career working through a corporate organization, but there's a lot of content in here coming from people who are on the ground running their own businesses, some of whom are only 6-12 months in, some of whom are 30 years in, some of whom have gone through and sold 3, 4, 5 different businesses, and giving their advice on firstly, what you should be considering before you even move into self-employment, giving you an idea of how you might understand whether self-employment is right for you, and then lots of specific advice for the journey along the way as well. And finally, we've got onboarding into a new role. So moving into a new role for the first time, or even moving into a new team or a new role within an existing organization, we've content to help you here. And then we've got all of our soft skill development training. So to help facilitate those broader brush areas like making a career decision or moving into self-employment or moving into a new role. We have content which will talk to you as both an employee and a line manager. So whether you're managing people now or you have ambitions to manage people in the future, how to have empathetic career conversations and how to have productive career conversations so that you're bringing information to the table as an employee or a line manager to make that as effective as possible and to get the outcomes that both of you need. We've then got content that helps you with productivity. And this is where some of our coaches really come to the fore. We have coaches who use their background, and as I said before, a range of spaces, not just the corporate workspace, to look at productivity. What does productivity mean? How can you manage it better? How can you understand it better? For example, your ultradian rhythm, how can you understand that and how can you utilize that? Going back to some of the things Ben was talking about with life-wide learning, how can things like yoga and Eastern philosophies, exercise, your sleep routine, your diet, impact your productivity, and what can you do to improve those? And all of these resources, and I'll just say this once rather than saying it every time, but as you can see here, are all really bite-sized. So none of these would take you long. You can come in and look at something very specific if that's what interests you, rather than having to wade through hours of learning. We've then got personal brand, and this is a really popular part of the CDC. So when we talk about personal brand, we don't just think about your LinkedIn and Twitter profiles. That is part of what's covered and it's absolutely relevant, but we think about how you build up a track record and a personal brand within an organization or even within an external network, how in an external networking event that Ben was describing, you can portray your personal brand. And we talk about the importance of that. Then moving into relationship and team working. So managing relationships within the workplace, whether that be as a new joiner, an established employee, a line manager, or even in a senior leadership role, the importance of relationships at all times, both in and out of the workplace, how you can improve those, how you can manage those, and how you can self-analyze as well and understand where you're strong and where you're not. And again, you'll see, like I mentioned before, we're very specific about our content, our topics, sorry. So if it's unconscious bias you're interested in, if it's assertiveness, if it's non-verbal communication, if it's empathy, if it's relationship building or likability, you'll find content in here specific to that rather than 1 or 2 courses just talking about relationship management. And then emotional intelligence, one of arguably the most in-demand skills, and one that's been around for a while but continues to be brought up to us certainly by our employer and coaching networks as a really important one. And again, not only does it explain emotional intelligence, it will give you assessments to help you understand your own emotional intelligence levels, and it will give you lots of advice on how to improve that, and how to be more forthright with that as well, and how to embed that into your own teams, for example, within the workplace. And then well-being. So well-being is something that over the past, as I'm sure everyone can appreciate, maybe 2.5, 3 years now, has become increasingly important, and something that people have increasingly struggled with in the workplace, with all the change that we're going through, and as Ben already demonstrated, all the change that we've still all got to look forward to in the workplace. So we put a lot of focus on understanding your own well-being and how to improve it. And we don't just mean by, meditating or talking to somebody. We try and give really specific advice on what might be causing that. So we'll look at certain points or certain junctions in your career where you may feel challenged, when your well-being may be challenged, and how to overcome those. And that fits nicely with resilience. Resilience is a key topic for us that we are always adding to, helping people understand what resilience is, what their resilience looks like, and how to improve that resilience, how to become more resilient in and outside of the workplace. And then what we have, so outside of that soft skill development, and there were more topics, but I'm conscious of talking people's ears off today. We do then also look at some of the more hard skills, as we described before. So lifelong learning isn't only about soft skills, although it is arguably one of those that soft skills that you always need to work on and always need to evolve. But we have content in here on problem solving, project management, negotiation, managing meetings, running meetings, and running group presentations, so public speaking. And this will, again, these won't just look at the technicals of putting together a PowerPoint, but it will talk about how to manage your nerves, how to present data as opposed to imagery, as opposed to words, as opposed to ideas. And it's all about building that confidence and constantly building your skills in all of this. And then where I wanted to finish on the CDC is the transparency that we try to give on where this content comes from. So there's a reason I've referenced quite a few times as we've gone, as I've gone through this presentation, who's contributing to this. We're very conscious of as an organization that online learning can sometimes be quite anonymous. Where it's coming from isn't very clear, and therefore you as a user or a consumer of the content could question the credibility and whether or not this is worth your time and whether or not you should be listening to this. So all of the coaches that contribute to our platform, and you can see a lot of them listed here, have a profile. So we have a profile, and if it's a video or a course that has only come from that coach, we'll put their name against it. So you can go and you can cross-reference against the coach's profile and see exactly whose advice it is you're taking. Not all content has a coach's name beside it, because a lot of the content is an amalgamation of advice taken from coaches, employers, and our own content team. But if it is specific to them, you'll find it there. And I opened up a couple to show you here, just to give you an idea of the range of our coaches, and just sticking with that life-wide learning concept, which is so important. So Jeff Grout, who's actually one of the 100 best business speakers in Britain, that's an official title, not one we've made up. His background is sports. So Jeff coached things like the England national rugby team on their World Cup winning season. He's worked with a lot of Olympic athletes. And what he brings to his coaching from his time there is resilience, motivation, communication, what he learned around team engagement and team motivation from those athletes that he worked with. And another coach here, Julia. So Julia's background is largely in emotional intelligence, resilience, and then how that applies to coaching and relationship management. So her background isn't exclusively corporate, yet she is now in offering a lot of professional coaching, looking at those soft skills that Ben and I have been describing and how they apply to the workplace and their importance in the workplace. And I won't go through the rest, but all of these contributors are available in the CDC against this contributors button right here. So I'd really recommend you guys go in, have a look, take some time, look through who these coaches are, and find a coach that resonates with you, and then engage with their content and see if their content offers you any advice. I'll end there. The only thing I wanted to mention on the CDC before I finish is that all of this is available on mobile as well. So you can use this on your mobile phone, tablets, etc. And every one of those tools, resources, etc. that I just described are responsive and will work absolutely fine on there as well. But I'll stop there. And we have left some time for questions, so I'll pass back over to you, Ben, and I'll stop sharing my screen.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that, Ryan. That was really useful. I'm sure everyone in all the attendees found it useful as well. So yeah, we're going to open up to Q&A now. So there is a Q&A box in the Zoom toolbar at the bottom. Feel free to post your questions there. We'll give it about a minute or two, and then we'll end shortly after that. Ryan, do you have any questions for myself on my presentation?
No, I would just make the observation that it's interesting that, you know, we've run our research separately. You know, BGA have run their own research there in terms of gathering what are the soft and hard skills most relevant to employers, and it matches up perfectly with what we're being told by our employer network. So for credibility there, that was a confidence boost for us, if nothing else.
Perfect. Well, it's also a confidence boost for us as well that our research is correct, because yeah, it's a very interesting topic for most, you know, all the BJ community, and also ourselves as well. Talking is we're constantly trying to figure out, okay, what's important about soft skills, what are the best soft skills. And is there any other research that you've done that you'd like to share now, Ryan, or anything interesting along the lines of, you know, what I've been talking about?
I mean, one thing we found recently, we commissioned a report maybe 8-9 months ago now through Deloitte. And a big highlight from that was actually well-being and the impact on performance, right? Which you can see reflected in our content there, which is why we've been putting so much time into it. We put that down largely to the pandemic and the change everybody went through there. People became a lot more conscious of their well-being, and I think people saw the impact of negative well-being and mental health and a lack of, it's a lack of attention being given to it on their performance in the workplace. I think it's a great thing. I think it's a really good thing that the world's becoming more conscious of that, and that's where we're going more and more with our content, is certainly not just thinking about hard skills, not even only thinking about the soft skills, but thinking about the impact of somebody's well-being on those soft skills and their ability to perform in the workplace.
Definitely, yeah. Thank you, Ryan. Oh no, we just had a question through, so I'll answer that right now. It's from Kagazo. So we don't actually have any certificates for the training that Ryan was talking about. It's all purely just kind of module based for you to do on your own accord and just to build your lifelong learning. So I'm afraid there's no certificates. However, we do offer a more of a digital credential to say that you are a BJ member. So that's either the BJ badge saying I'm a BJ member, or the BJ digital certificate saying I've graduated from a BJ institution. But I'm afraid, no, we don't have any stackable, shareable certificates for the topics that Ryan was talking about.
Yeah, it's a good question, and one we've been asked before. We've always tried to position our ABintegro platform as a very private and personal space for you as members. We limit the data significantly available to anybody in terms of exactly what it is you're doing, and that's the reason we've never gone down the formalized kind of certification route. But a sensible question, and one we've considered many times.
Definitely. Okay, so it doesn't appear to be any more questions coming through. For anyone who does have questions about anything that myself and Ryan have talked about today, feel free to send us an email at membership@businessgraduatesassociation.com. That'll come through the inbox, and either myself or Ryan will be able to answer that question. Okay, perfect. All right, so yeah, I'm going to wrap up today's session. So this has been session 1 of the BJ Careers Month 2022. And like I said, any other questions or anything, please feel free to send an email, membership@businessgraduatesassociation.com. And please tune in next week and the week after that for our next 3 sessions. So next week's session's on the CV, the 9 different types of CV. And then it's on career journeys and planning. And then the final one, we have a guest speaker called Eloise coming to talk about finding your career purpose. So yeah, I look forward to seeing you all next week. And I'd like to thank again Ryan Cattell from AMBA Research for, for using his time to talk today about all the Career Development Centre aspects. So thank you very much, Ryan, and thank you on behalf of all the attendees here as well.
Not at all. Thank you for the invite, Ben. And thank you everyone for your time.
No worries. All right, everyone have a great rest of your day and we'll see you all soon.
Bye, everyone.
Bye now.